Concluding our MySwing 6 video series, we're going to take a look at our sixth feature, the pelvis sway, thrust, and lift graph. For this graph, we're going to take a look at a 30-year-old golf swing, 30-year-old female's golf swing. She's hitting an 8-iron. Again, flight scope data at the bottom. And this is the same swing we looked at in rotations. I've got the graphs pulled up. As you can see here, here's the pelvis sway, thrust, lift graph. We've got a couple different ways to view this graph. We've got the traditional graph with the lines and the curves. We're going to take a closer look at the 3D version of the graph. The top bar is sway. Negative number is away from the target. Positive number is toward the target. The bottom bar is thrust. Negative number is away from the ball. Positive number is toward the ball. And then the right column is lift. Negative number is down in relationship is toward the ground, in relationship to the ground, or a positive number is up away from the ground. And again, this is measuring the center of the pelvis. So we'll go ahead and play Callie's swing. As you can see, she's got a pretty good swing, but we're going to find out she has a lot of lateral movement. So we're going to scroll back. Again, negative number is away from the target. So as you can see already, she's slid the center of her pelvis over 5 inches away from the target in just the takeaway. We're going to go up to the top. She kind of maxes it out at about 5.5. And then when she gets to the top, as her pelvis starts to rotate more, it ends up a little bit less than it was in the takeaway. So she got to 5.5 and it's already starting to change directions and gets all the way to 2.9. And that's common with a lot of sliders. You see a lot of sway early on, and then you see it kind of stable. You see the pelvis stabilize a little bit because she can't keep going. Once she starts to rotate, the sway goes away. We'll continue down in the downswing. At this point, she is back to where she was at address. About right there. She's back to 0. We continue on. She's going to get quite a bit forward. She's over 5 inches. And at impact, she's around 6.5 inches of sway toward the target. So overall, she's moved over 11 inches. So this is something you would definitely want to take a look at. One thing we found with sway, the more you rotate, the harder it is to sway. The more you sway, the harder it is to rotate. So obviously with this graph, with this data, I'm looking at pelvis sway first, and we'll definitely take a look at trying to minimize so much of the movement. Okay, we'll take a look at thrust. Thrust needs to be looked at again from a down the line angle. It's the movement of the pelvis toward the ball and away from the ball. We'll scroll it back and you can see she's moved. It's a negative number, so she's moved 1 inch away. She's moved 2 inches away, and then she stabilizes when she starts to rotate, and it pretty much stops there at about just over 1 inch away. Working our way down, you can see she's moving toward the ball. She's back to neutral, and she's going to continue moving slightly toward the ball. So she's moved about 2.5 inches from the top of the backswing to impact. So again, this is something to take a look at as well. It's not uncommon for good players to thrust slightly in the downswing. Over 2 inches is a lot, but perhaps once you attack this sway number and get it a little bit better, most of the times thrust will change, and hopefully it will get better as well. Now looking at the right column, we'll take a look at lift. Negative, she's working her pelvis down, actually quite a bit, so she's kind of squatting and loading into the ground. So she's moved it down over 1.5 inches, and then she's going to start to extend. She gets back to neutral here, and she's going to keep extending. We see extension with a lot of good players. Very few good players do we see actually go down in the downswing. We'll continue on to the finish. And then we'll take one last look at the original graph, and we can expand it to full screen so you see the green moving a lot in the backswing. So again, that's the sway, and then you see it moving a lot. The overall pattern of the curve is fine. It's just she's moving too much. Remember, the curves give you the whole story, so you can see where she started and where she ended. This is going to give you more of a snapshot, but it's much easier to understand and apply to your teaching and to show your students. Again, MySwing 6 video series, pelvis sway thrust lift.